Hey everyone, I've had a few requests to show how I make my Mickey epoxy cup. So this video is going to be the step-by-step instructions of how to do that. It does go pretty into detail as to how I make them. It is by no means the only way to make them. I have seen some different processes of the epoxy cups online on YouTube and stuff, so you know there may be other ways out there. This is just how I've done them, how I've had success doing them. And like I said, it is fairly detailed, so it's about 12-ish minutes long, I guess. But I do a lot of like fast forwarding through, you know, showing how I do it, but it's still like not true time wise. So anyway, hope you guys enjoy the video and I will catch you at the end. I first begin with a Ozark Trail cup that I get at Walmart. Pull the sticker off. You have to use a heat gun or something to get that sticky stuff completely off because it does not want to come off. I have seen some people that will use acetone if you don't have a heat gun. I just happen to have one. After that, use a little bit of rubbing alcohol to wipe down the cup. It helps to get any dirt, oil from people's hands, things like that, to just give you a clean base to work from. Next, we move on to marking the cup, and what I do is I just find something that is of the height that I want, and I just use a Sharpie fine tip permanent marker and mark. I turn the cup, not the pen. After that, I will tape it off. I have used electrical tape, but I have found that this blue painter's tape comes off a little easier. I will mark it so I can see where the other side of the cup is, because I want to put Mickey's buttons on the opposite side of the Ozark Trail emblem. It doesn't really matter because once you put the glitter on, it covers up that emblem entirely, so you won't be able to see it, but it's a little bit easier to work with the glitter and the glue putting it on the opposite side because you don't have the bump where the thing is. Then I'll add Mickey's buttons, which I have just created out of vinyl and my Cricut. The first time I did a Mickey cup, I actually just used some masking tape that I cut ovals out of, but it was a lot easier to just use the Cricut and cut the ovals. I had a piece of sandpaper, so I did that to try and make sure that the buttons were even, and that way they didn't get off. I mean, it's something that's kind of hard to get perfect, but I did want them to be lined up as close as possible. Then I just continue going around the cup. I had to tear little pieces because the way the contour of the cup was, I couldn't go straight and it'd be right on the line. I do go ahead and put the rod for the turner into the cup because it really makes it easier, because it gives you something to hold on to while you're working with the cup. And then I begin by getting the Mod Podge ready. And Mod Podge is just basically a glue if you're not familiar with it. This is shiny, but I have used the matte. I think I finished this cup actually with the matte. I start with the red section of the Mickey cup just because that way I can do the black, gold, and white all at the same time. And I just begin by painting a thin layer of the Mod Podge over that section. And try to be sure that you get the Mod Podge as evenly coat as possible, because if you do have clumps then of glue, it will create a clump in the glitter, and by the time you put several layers of the glitter, it's not a huge deal, but you still you know, want to try to keep it as even as possible. Add the glitter for one coat, and after that I let it dry for 20 minutes. After it dries for 20 minutes, I go ahead and add another layer of Mod Podge, and when I've got that layer on there, I just sprinkle the glitter on it again to cover that one. I did dust off the excess glitter between the coats with a paintbrush. I didn't do that between the first and second coat. I don't always do it, but it does kind of keep the glitter from clumping quite as much. It's not a huge issue either way, but I do really kind of like to do that. So with the rest of the cup between the layers, I did dust off that excess glitter. And all that is just a dry paintbrush. I have one that's kind of stiff because it does dust well. And unless I see any completely bald spots where you can still see the cup through the glitter, I only usually put 3 coats of glitter. And after that third coat, even while the glue is still dry, I will go ahead and peel the tape off, the vinyl off. It seems to peel a little bit easier if you do it while it's wet. Just still be careful, because I have had some issues with the glitter wanting to peel up off the cup. This cup, it didn't do it too bad, but just pull it up slow so that if you do have any pull up, you can fix that. Once that layer dries again for 20 minutes, I'll go ahead and dust that excess red off, just because especially because I am going to go ahead and start working on the other colors now. And then I'll just work through them. It doesn't matter which order you do them in. I did the buttons first most of the time, but I think there were a couple of times where I didn't. So the next one, like I said, just repeat the process that you did with the red. Put on, a layer of Mod Podge and then your glitter, and wait about 20 minutes between coats. I have seen some people who will actually spray paint the cup before they start glittering it, because it doesn't seem to take as much glitter, because this cup's not silver. Like, they'll use the spray paint to match the glitter that they're going to use. Obviously with this one it wouldn't really work as much, because you are using 4 different colors of glitter, but it's just kind of personal preference. But like I said, I just repeat that whole process with the red, again with the white, black, and gold. I do spray the cup on the outside with a acrylic sealer, and that just keeps the glitter from shifting when you do put your epoxy over it. I don't do this with any cup that only has one color, because it doesn't matter if the glitter shifts if it's only one color, but since you're using multiple colors, then you don't want it shifting into the other one.
Okay, for this step, I'm going to begin to put the epoxy on the cup. And for this step, you'll need at least one glove. I usually only use one gloved hand. 2 measuring cups. I like the clear cups because you can see through them and see what you've got. I've seen some YouTube videos where they just use paper cups. A popsicle stick preferably. And you'll also need epoxy, which I use this amazing clear cast. It's 2 parts. But you also want to make sure that you get them to where they are FDA compliant, because you are going to be putting your mouth to it, so you want to make sure that it is safe. So we use this one, and there is another brand out there, but I use this one. Like I said, I order it from Amazon. I think Hobby Lobby does carry it as well, but that's what I use.
I will go ahead and mark the measuring cup on the line I want to, because once you add the clear, it's hard to see. Here is where I'm mixing the epoxy. It's a 2-part epoxy. There's a part A and a part B. You have to mix them with equal parts. Part A is thicker than part B, but you have to make sure that you get the same amount, so I use 2 separate measuring cups. After you get them measured, you add them to the same cup. Like I said before, I like to use the clear cups just because you can see what you're mixing. Be sure you scrape as much as possible out of the individual cups, because like I said, they do have to be even or your epoxy won't set correctly. Then you start mixing them together. You have to mix them for 4 minutes. You can actually kind of tell, or at least I can, it feels different when they are mixed together properly. Be sure you scrape the sides, scrape the bottom, because like I said, it's very important that you have them mixed properly, or it won't set properly. But I always set my Alexa for 4 minutes, and even though I can feel a consistency difference once they are mixed, I do it for that full 4 minutes, just to be sure that they are fully mixed together. I then move on to my cup turner, and I just pour the epoxy onto the cup using a gloved finger to kind of smooth it out. Epoxy is self-leveling, which is why the turner helps. You can just kind of, pour it on there, but you do want to make sure that you do have it like spread out with your fingers some, so that the epoxy knows where to level itself. You can do this without a cup turner. I have watched some YouTube videos, so if you don't have a cup turner, you might want to watch some of those videos. My dad and I built this one, and it just makes it a lot easier because it will turn and keep it turning so that epoxy can level. And I found that usually if you keep the turner turning for between 4 and 6 hours, the epoxy has set enough that you can turn it off. I'll then either, if I have another cup that I want to start on, I will go ahead and put it on, take this one off, and just make it to where it's not touching anything to dry. But a lot of times I'll leave it on the turner for about 12 hours to fully set before I add a second coat of epoxy. And as the final step, before I just let the turner do its thing, I will take my heat gun again. It's just a heat embossing gun. It's definitely totally not necessary. I have done a few that I haven't done this to, and they turned out fine. But I will run that heat gun over it, usually twice. Like I'll let it turn 2 complete turns and just move it back and forth, and that heat will bring any bubbles, that air bubbles, to the surface so that they will pop, although a lot of times they will pop anyway. But like I said, it just kind of helps to bring those bubbles to the surface.
Okay, so here is the practically finished product. It will just need one more coat of epoxy on it to completely seal it, but I'm going to wait until I add the name on the back side of the person who this cup is for. So you add that a name to the back, which do it in vinyl. So you'd add that name to it, then put a second layer of epoxy. You can add more layers of epoxy, but you would just do them like that's the first layer of epoxy, you just put it on there. It does take a little bit less epoxy for the second coat because you don't have all like the glitter nooks and crannies that it's, you know, seeping into to coat, but like I said, it's done the exact same way. So I'm sorry for the noise because my dog is deciding he wants to like wander around, and if you notice the camera wobbling, that is why, because he is snooping. But anyway, this cup is going to be given away over on my friend Jen LaForge's channel. She will be posting a video that I believe the title of it is Pre-Disney Cruise Haul and Shopping Haul and Giveaway. I will put a link to it down in the description as soon as she gets it posted. I think she was going to try to post that video about the same time that I'm going to try and post this one, so I will get a link down in the description as soon as I can. But she is going to give this cup away over on her channel, so be sure to go over there and watch her video and find out what the criteria is for giveaway. So if you guys have any questions, just be sure to list them down below. I will do my best to answer them. I'm still new at this whole glitter epoxy cup thing, but I think I've picked it up pretty quick, so and the ones I've done so far I think have turned out fairly well. Just be sure if you do make one, be sure to hand wash only. They're not dishwasher safe. I have been told by a couple of people that have accidentally washed them that they have turned out okay through the dishwasher, but I also have had a couple of people that told me they didn't. So you definitely probably want to stick with hand washing. I have hand washed all the ones that I have made for myself or my family. But anyway, hope you guys have learned something, enjoyed watching my video. Like I said, go watch my friend Jen LaForge's video to find out how to win this cup, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.